All right, what's going on in West Virginia other than meth?
Heroin, okay. So,
Heroin.
West Virginia's got a very diverse business scene, okay?
They upgraded. Their state bird is fentanyl. Well, what's going on in West Virginia? You wanted to talk about this. What do you got?
Governor Patrick Morrisey is threatening.
He used to be a singer. Morrisey?
I don't know.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
You know pop culture from like way before my time. Okay, I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Citing a miscarriage of justice, has threatened legal action against the NCAA for West Virginia University being left out of the NCAA tournament this year, Dave. That's right.
Well, that's a shame. You should sue if things don't go your way. Just sue.
Well, let's, he says West Virginia deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. He called it miscarriage of justice. He said the NCAA stands for the National Corrupt Athletic Association. Oh, man. The first of the gang to die.
It's Morrisey in Berlin. Go ahead.
You just totally messed up our copyright. Okay, so now I'm going to have to go fight YouTube to clear things out and do a ton of work. You just added a lot of work to my day, Dave.
Sorry about that. You mentioned Morrisey. I've never even heard Morrisey. I just remember who he was.
Okay, so he says that National NCAA stands for National Corrupt Athletic Association. Man, so clever. And says that West Virginia deserves to be in the NCAA tournament. And he wants to file a lawsuit to determine if any backroom deals, corruption, bribes, or any nefarious activity occurred during the selection process. And he says, the Attorney General and I are going to leave no stone unturned during this process. We need to get to the bottom of it. Oh, and he pointed out North Carolina particularly. He says North Carolina went 1-12 in quad 1 games and even had a quad 3 loss, which is fair. And then he talked about Bubba Cunningham, which we talked about earlier, being the selection committee chair. So he was... But he says it's too soon for litigation.
Why wouldn't you go ahead and litigate? Why? Because that would cost money, and then the taxpayers would say, don't do that. It's basketball, you idiot.
Exactly. And his final quote is, it's easy for the casual fan to look at the NCAA tournament and see it as a fun way to fill out a bracket. But at the end of the day, it's $1 billion business that involves NIL. It involves the lifetime's worth of work for a ton of student athletes who this would have been a pinnacle of their career. Well, if they wanted to reach the pinnacle of their career, I'm not saying West Virginia didn't belong, but I've always said, Dave, if you're on the bubble and you want to reach the pinnacle of your career and get your one shining moment, maybe do enough work in the regular season to not be on the bubble.
No, I agree. And listen, this is the same thing as Tim Burchett grandstanding about Alberto Asunda. This just endears you to the voters in that state. Everybody's like, yeah, go. When the other 49 states are, you're a moron. And I mean, this has no legs, but you wanted to spin it into what could Tennessee sue the NCAA about again, because they win when they sue the NCAA. It has to be Alberto Asunda, right?
I would sue the NCAA over Alberto Asunda. Yes.
Well, here's the problem. They are, but the hearing is not going to be until June. So you could win the hearing, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because he wouldn't be able to play. I guess maybe they could sue and then have him play next year because they held him out this year. That's maybe what they would claim. So they could definitely sue over Alberto Asunda. Let's get but why stop there, Dave? Why don't they get as petty as West Virginia? They should sue for the fact that they had to go visit Ohio State last year. They could claim they should be the 8th seed and should have gotten to play that game at home.
Okay, let me take a step in another direction. How about you sue because you got hit with any NCAA violations or penalties because of Jeremy Pruitt, because in retrospect, you were allowed to pay players anyway, and it proved to be illegal.
You lost money on that.
I actually think that one holds some water.
Well, that's what the university would do. I'm talking about, like, for the state could talk about revenue for themselves. The reason I said sue Ohio State, they could sue the College Football Playoff Committee over Ohio State. They could come out and say, hey, look, the game was at Ohio State. That's lost revenue for the state of Tennessee because that game should have been at Neyland Stadium. Maybe they should sue on behalf of the Lady Vols for having to go play the first weekend of the NCAA tournament in Columbus and not getting to host it. But you're right. They should still sue with Jimmy Pruitt because they should say, hey, They should sue on behalf of the Chick-fil-A branches in their state. But I'm just saying, keep suing. Heck, just retroactively sue ESPN for costing Peyton Manning the Heisman. Do it.
Yeah, that could work, I guess.
Say not having a Heisman winner at our flagship campus hurts potential tourists who would want to come to our flagship campus to see the Peyton Manning history.
Dylan, that is the post of the day. No question. Don't touch me, or my daddy will sue. You know what that's from?
I don't, but I know what I get the concept, but what's it from?
Okay, I'm not going to tell. So I want whoever puts it in there, you want to celebrate 98 book. It can't be you, Dylan, because you obviously know it's one of the greatest movies of all time. So go ahead and put it in there. What else would you sue for, Caleb?
What else should the state of Tennessee sue for? Guys, give me some ideas on your end. On what? Oh, that's a good one. Steve Sullivan's right. State of Tennessee needs to sue Nebraska for canceling that series with them. That's lost revenue for the state.
You actually could probably get away with that.
You have a case. You have a really strong case on that one. They signed a contract. That's not a bad one at all. You're right. City of Knoxville can sue Nebraska. That's a very good one. So,
yeah, well, usually the university, in this case Nebraska, that pulls out of one of these would be covered because there's a buyout. So the University of Tennessee, I'm trying to find, Nebraska agreed to $1 million buyout for canceling a home and home series. So they paid $1 million to the university, but they didn't pay anything to the city. So
yeah,
I think you could. I definitely think you could
sue on behalf of the hotels, right? That had that probably expected some people from Nebraska to come into. Yeah, I think you could absolutely sue for that. I mean, it's not just the university that makes money from these games. I mean, guys, it's how many? Dave, I got a question. How many restaurants and hotels and college football based towns are in business because of college football?
Most. Brandon says Smokey and the Bandit. Heck yeah, Brandon. There's my email. Go ahead and email me your address and I will send you a Celebrate 98 book. You can purchase those online. If we can drop that link in there, that would be fantastic. If you would like to buy a book, some of them are autographed by former Vols as well that were on that team. Yeah, remember that was the little we're talking a lot about short things today. Ewoks and the little guy in the suit, Smokey and the Bandit. There was a big fat guy in a suit and there was a little guy in a suit. And they wore the same suit, and they were the ones that wanted to run Coors from Texas to I really don't remember where, and that's considered bootlegging because you couldn't buy Coors east of the Mississippi, I think.
That's so wild, really? That makes sense. I think I remember hearing stories that like some people I know would drive west to go buy Coors. Wasn't a problem if you lived in Memphis because Arkansas is on the other side. But
Mike Strange, former writer at the News Sentinel, talks like this. The only guy that had a deeper voice than me. And he said that like along the lines of like the mid 90s, because he and I were both craft beer fans. He said he flew out to Denver for the first time and in the airport there was craft beer. And it was the first time he had ever seen anything other than Bud Light, Miller Lite in a tap.
Oh, I can believe that. That started in there was a bill in the late 70s that deregulated the brewing industry, and that's why craft beer exploded in the 2000s.
I couldn't remember their name. It was Texas to Georgia. Big Enos and Little Enos. Have you seen Smokey and the Bandit, Caleb?
No, I actually haven't, funny enough. I need to. But wait, okay, how about this, though? Speaking of all these lawsuits, someone had a good point. UT should. Do you know Ohio State University just trademarked the word "the"?
Who did?
Ohio State. They've trademarked the word "the."
That was so stupid.